In Vancouver, veganism, sustainability, and farm-to-table dining aren't three separate food trends anymore. They've fused into a single local language that a lot of restaurants and diners speak by default. Across 2025-2026, the shift is less about performative green branding and more about systems, sourcing, waste, seasonality, labor, pricing, and what diners will actually order when rent is due. Start with the headline truth. Plant-forward eating is rapidly moving from niche to normal. National industry reporting has been tracking a steady, rising demand for plant-based menu options right across Canada. This powerful shift is shaped by changing demographics, especially among younger consumers, as well as evolving health preferences and, of course, price sensitivity. It's a fundamental change in how we think about food. And it's happening everywhere, from major cities to smaller communities. In practice, that means today's diners don't always label themselves vegan or vegetarian. They're often flexitarians who simply want a delicious, plant-based option that's just as satisfying as the meat version. Crucially, they expect it without paying a virtue tax, that old-school premium for choosing the plant-based dish. Fast food and casual spots are aggressively chasing this demand, integrating plant-based items directly into their core menus. It's a smart business move because plant-based is now viewed as a mainstream staple rather than a fringe request. Under the hood, the environmental logic is strong and increasingly well supported by research. A large body of scholarship links more plant-based dietary patterns with lower greenhouse gas emissions and land use, with some studies showing substantial reductions when animal source foods are replaced with plant-rich diets. Recent nutrition and sustainability research continues to reinforce that sustainable diet patterns can reduce diet-related environmental impacts while still meeting health needs. Translation for Vancouver diners: ordering the mushroom steak isn't just a vibe. There's a real, measurable footprint story behind it. But Vancouver's dining scene gets especially interesting when you add the city's deep-rooted obsession with local and seasonal ingredients. It's a philosophy born from the landscape itself, the Pacific Ocean, fertile Fraser Valley, and wild mountains. This isn't just a trend, it's a core part of the city's identity, where menus change with the weather and chefs are celebrated for their connection to the land. In 2025, this ethos took center stage when Vancouver Magazine created an inaugural Sustainability Award. They gave it to Burdock Co, pointing directly to its long-term partnerships with local farmers, producers, and fishers. That matters because it reframes sustainability as relationship-based supply chains, not just surface-level gestures like compostable straws. The broader food media is echoing the same direction, highlighting restaurants that treat green dining as their operational DNA, from zero-waste kitchen practices to hyper-local sourcing. It's a movement that proves world-class cuisine and environmental stewardship can and should share the same plate. Farm to table, meanwhile, has matured into something more concrete in BC. Not simply, we bought kale, but why it was bought, when, and from whom. A BC feature in late 2025 emphasizes how farm-to-table has gained traction as diners look for sustainability-focused choices. And it grounds the concept in the realities of local chefs working with seasonal constraints. Put differently, in Vancouver, farm-to-table isn't only a romance, it's a calendar, a rainy spring, a heat dome, wildfire smoke. Each can change what's available and what a menu becomes. Dine Out Vancouver 2026 is one of the clearest examples of how these preferences show up at scale. The festival leans hard into experiences like foraging and local food adventures, which effectively turn sustainability into entertainment. At the same time, Michelin-linked coverage around Dine Out 2026 spotlights long-running Vancouver spots described as farm-to-table staples, proof that local first isn't new here, but it's getting newly amplified. And then there's the social media layer, where Vancouver's food culture behaves like a volatile stock market driven by hype, backlash, closures, and dramatic comebacks. It's a digital arena where a single viral post can make or break a business. Take, for example, when Daily Hive Vancouver announced a well-known vegan restaurant's closure in 2025. The online reaction was immediate and intense, becoming part of the story itself. Comment sections filled with eulogies and debates. For many, this wasn't just a business shutting down. It was the erasure of a cultural landmark, a place that represented shared values. People weren't just losing a menu, they felt like they were losing a piece of the city's identity. Yet, even as some doors close, the broader plant-based scene is fiercely competing for mainstream legitimacy. It's no longer about being a niche alternative. It's about claiming a seat at the fine dining table. A Vancouver restaurant's Instagram post celebrating its shortlist for the Vancouver Magazine Restaurant Awards 2026 perfectly illustrates this shift. It's a public declaration that plant-based is award-worthy, a culinary art form, not just a dietary accommodation. This ambition is amplified by an entire ecosystem of digital creators. Add in the countless YouTube Best Vegan Restaurants in Vancouver list videos, and you can see the feedback loop in action. Creators drive curiosity. Diners fill seats, restaurants lean into their elevated identity, and the algorithm keeps the entire cycle spinning, constantly redefining what it means to eat in this city. What makes 2025-2026 feel different is the tension. Diners want sustainability and value, but restaurants are operating inside real cost pressures, so the winners are often the places that make plant-based and farm-to-table feel less like sacrifice and more like flex, hyper-seasonal menus, creative vegetable technique, and waste reduction that actually improves quality. In other words, Vancouver's plant-forward dining era is no longer a trend forecast. It's a negotiation happening nightly between farmer, chef, diner, and the feed on your phone. The city's most successful vegan, sustainable, farm-to-table spots in 2025-2026 aren't asking people to eat better out of guilt. They're making the case the Vancouver way. If it's local, gorgeous, clever, and worth the money, people will order it.